You've been told that changing your reality takes years of hard work, discipline, and grinding through obstacles. You've been sold courses on manifestation that require complex visualizations, endless affirmations, and strict routines that somehow never quite deliver the breakthrough you're desperately seeking. But what if I told you that quantum reality escape is actually stunningly simple, and the reason you're stuck isn't because you're not doing enough, but because you're doing way too much? Here's what's really happening. Every single day, you're broadcasting a frequency into the quantum field that's perfectly aligned with your current reality. Not the reality you want, not the reality you're trying to create with all those techniques and methods, but the reality you're actually living right now. And the universe, being the perfect mirror it is, keeps reflecting that exact frequency back to you with mathematical precision. The billionaires and quantum physicists know something that the self-help industry desperately doesn't want you to discover. Because if you knew how effortlessly reality actually shifts, you'd stop buying their complicated systems tomorrow. The secret isn't in doing more. It's in understanding that you're already a quantum reality creator. You're just creating unconsciously, and most of what you've learned about manifestation is actually keeping you trapped in the same patterns. Think about this for a moment. When was the last time something amazing happened in your life completely unexpectedly? Maybe you met someone perfect for you when you weren't looking for love. Maybe money showed up exactly when you needed it without you doing any manifestation work. Maybe an opportunity opened up that seemed to come out of nowhere. What was different about those moments? You weren't trying to control anything. You weren't forcing outcomes. You were simply being yourself, naturally aligned with what felt good, and reality responded instantly. That's quantum reality escape in action, and it's happening around you constantly. But here's where most people get trapped. The moment something good happens naturally, they immediately try to figure out how to make it happen again. They create methods, routines, and systems to capture that magic, not realizing that the magic itself was in the complete absence of trying to control it. The quantum field doesn't respond to your efforts. It responds to your state of being, and your state of being isn't determined by what you do for 20 minutes during your morning routine. It's determined by who you're being in every moment when you think nobody's watching, including yourself. Let me share something that will probably challenge everything you've been taught about reality creation. The observer effect in quantum physics shows us that the act of observation literally collapses infinite possibilities into a single experienced reality. But here's what they don't tell you in those manifestation courses. You're not just observing with your conscious mind during meditation or visualization. You're observing with your entire being, 24 hours a day, through every thought, feeling, assumption, and unconscious belief you hold about what's possible for someone like you. Right now, as you're listening to this, you're collapsing thousands of quantum possibilities into your current experience. The question isn't whether you're creating your reality, because that's happening automatically. The question is whether you're creating consciously or unconsciously, and most people are creating unconsciously based on patterns they learned before they were 7 years old. Your subconscious mind is broadcasting into the quantum field constantly, and it's not broadcasting your wishes or your goals or your vision board. It's broadcasting your deepest assumptions about reality, most of which you inherited from people who were stuck in the same patterns you're trying to escape from. This is why you can do all the right techniques and still feel like you're hitting an invisible wall. You're trying to create new results with old programming, and the old programming always wins because it's running automatically in the background. But here's where it gets fascinating. The moment you truly understand that you're already creating your reality perfectly based on your current frequency, everything changes. Because instead of trying to add more techniques and methods to override your natural creative process, you can simply tune into what frequency you're actually broadcasting and make conscious adjustments. Think of it like this. Imagine you have a radio that's perfectly tuned to a station playing music you don't enjoy. You could spend years trying to change the music by talking to the radio, visualizing different songs, or doing elaborate rituals around the radio. Or you could simply turn the dial and tune into a different frequency where the music you love is already playing perfectly. Your reality is the music. Your state of being is the frequency. And quantum reality escape is simply learning how to consciously tune your dial instead of trying to change what's playing on a frequency you don't actually want to be on. Most people are trying to manifest from a state of lack, trying to attract abundance from a feeling of scarcity, trying to create love from a place of loneliness. But the quantum field can only give you more of what you already are, not what you're trying to become. This is why those techniques feel like pushing water uphill. You're trying to create from the opposite frequency, of what you want to experience. Here's what quantum reality escape actually looks like in practice. Instead of trying to manifest $1 million from a state of financial stress, you first find a way to genuinely feel abundant with what you have right now, not as a technique or a method, but as a natural recognition of the abundance that's already present in your life. The moment your nervous system relaxes into genuine appreciation for what is, you're broadcasting abundance, and the quantum field has no choice but to reflect more abundance back to you. But this isn't about positive thinking or forcing yourself to feel grateful when you're struggling. That's just more trying, more effort, more pushing against what is. Quantum reality escape happens when you stop trying to change your feelings and start understanding why you're feeling the way you're feeling in the first place. Every emotion you experience is information about what frequency you're currently tuned to. If you're feeling stuck, frustrated, or like nothing's working, that's not a problem to solve. That's valuable data about what you're unconsciously creating. Instead of trying to fix those feelings or override them with better thoughts, you can use them as a guidance system to understand what beliefs and assumptions are running your reality creation process. Let me tell you what really happens when someone experiences what they call overnight transformation. It's never actually overnight. What happens is they finally stop fighting against their natural creative process and start working with it instead. They stop trying to force new results with old patterns and start embodying the frequency of what they want to experience. Embodiment isn't a technique you do. It's a state you allow yourself to naturally settle into when you stop trying to be somewhere other than where you are. When you stop making your current reality wrong. When you stop treating your life like a problem to solve. When you stop believing that you need to earn or deserve or figure out how to have what you want, your nervous system finally relaxes enough to tune into frequencies that were always available to you. Think about someone you know who seems to effortlessly attract good things into their life. They're not working harder than you. They're not doing more manifestation techniques than you. They're not more deserving than you. They're simply naturally aligned with frequencies of ease, flow, and positive expectation, because that's how they learn to be in the world. And the quantum field responds to who they're being, not what they're trying to create. This is why children are such powerful manifestors before they learn that life is supposed to be difficult. A child doesn't try to manifest ice cream. They simply want ice cream with their whole being, assume it's possible to have ice cream, and somehow ice cream appears. They're not fighting against beliefs about whether they deserve ice cream, or whether ice cream is available, or whether wanting ice cream makes them selfish. They're purely aligned with the frequency of having ice cream, and reality responds accordingly. You were that child once. You knew how to want things without making it complicated. You knew how to dream without needing to figure out the how. You knew how to be happy without needing reasons. That natural manifester is still inside you, buried under layers of programming about how hard life is supposed to be, and how much you need to struggle to earn good things. Quantum reality escape isn't about learning something new. It's about unlearning everything that's not actually true so you can return to your natural state of effortless creation. It's about recognizing that the struggle isn't real, the limitations aren't real, and the idea that you need to fix yourself before you can have what you want is the biggest illusion of all. So here's what I want you to consider. What if you're not broken? What if you don't need to be healed or fixed or improved? What if you're already a perfect quantum creator who's simply been taught to create unconsciously instead of consciously? What if the only thing standing between you and the reality you want is your belief that it has to be complicated? The quantum field is responding to you right now, in this moment, based on who you're being as you listen to these words. If you're listening with skepticism, trying to figure out if this is real or if it will work for you, you're broadcasting doubt, and the field will reflect more experiences that confirm your doubt. If you're listening with curiosity and openness, genuinely considering that reality might be more malleable than you've been taught, you're broadcasting possibility, and the field will reflect more experiences that confirm new possibilities. This isn't about believing what I'm telling you. This is about paying attention to what's actually happening in your direct experience right now. How does it feel to consider that you might already be everything you need to be to create the reality you want? How does it feel to imagine that the struggle might be optional? How does it feel to entertain the possibility that you've been making this much harder than it needs to be? Whatever you're feeling right now is information about what frequency you're tuned to. If you're feeling relief, expansion, or excitement, you're tuning into frequencies where quantum reality escape is natural and easy. If you're feeling resistance, doubt, or the need to figure out how this could possibly work, you're tuned into frequencies where struggle and limitation feel real and necessary. Neither frequency is right or wrong. They're just different radio stations playing different kinds of music. But if you don't like the music that's playing in your life right now, maybe it's time to consciously reach for the dial and see what else is available. The most profound shifts happen when you stop trying to change your external reality and start paying attention to your internal frequency, because your external reality is just a reflection of your internal state, and when your internal state shifts, your external reality has no choice but to shift with it. This is quantum physics, not wishful thinking. Ready to go deeper into how this actually works in practical terms? Because understanding the science behind quantum reality escape is what transforms this from interesting concepts into lived experience. The science behind what I'm sharing with you isn't New Age philosophy. It's cutting-edge quantum physics that most people never learn because it completely dismantles the illusion that you're separate from your reality. When quantum physicists discovered that particles exist in a state of infinite possibility until they're observed, they weren't just making a statement about subatomic particles. They were revealing the fundamental nature of reality itself. Every possibility for your life exists right now in what physicists call the quantum field of pure potential. The version of you that's financially free, the version that's in perfect health, the version that's living your dream life, they're all equally real and equally available. The only difference between the reality you're experiencing now and the reality you want to experience is which possibility you're consistently observing into existence through your state of being. But here's what they don't teach you in school about the observer effect. You're not observing with just your conscious mind. You're observing with your entire nervous system, your subconscious beliefs, your emotional patterns, and your energetic signature. Every cell in your body is constantly broadcasting information into the quantum field about what you expect to be real, what you believe is possible for someone like you, and what you unconsciously assume about how life works. This is why you can consciously want financial abundance while unconsciously believing that money is the root of all evil, or consciously desire a loving relationship while unconsciously believing that you're not worthy of love. Your conscious desires are like whispers compared to the megaphone of your subconscious programming, and the quantum field responds to the loudest, most consistent signal you're broadcasting. Most people spend their entire lives trying to override their subconscious programming with conscious effort, not realizing that this creates internal conflict that actually prevents the very thing they're trying to create. It's like trying to drive somewhere with one foot on the gas and one foot on the brake. You might eventually get there, but it's going to be exhausting, inefficient, and probably take much longer than necessary. Quantum reality escape happens when you stop fighting against your subconscious patterns and start understanding them as outdated software that can be updated. Your subconscious mind isn't your enemy. It's simply running programs that were installed when you were too young to consciously choose what to believe about reality. Most of your core beliefs about what's possible, what you deserve, and how the world works were formed before you were 7 years old, based on what you observed in your environment and what you concluded about yourself and life. A child who grows up watching their parents struggle with money doesn't just learn that money is hard to come by. They absorb into their nervous system the feeling of financial stress, the energy of scarcity, and the unconscious belief that good people struggle with money. Even if they consciously reject these beliefs as an adult, their nervous system is still broadcasting the frequency of financial struggle, because that's what feels familiar and safe to their subconscious mind. This is why lottery winners often lose all their money within a few years. It's not because they're irresponsible or unlucky. It's because their nervous system isn't calibrated to the frequency of having large amounts of money. Their subconscious programming says that people like them don't have millions of dollars, so they unconsciously create circumstances that bring them back to the financial reality that feels familiar, even if it's not what they consciously want. But here's the beautiful thing about understanding this process. Once you recognize that your current reality is simply a reflection of your current programming, you can start to consciously update that programming instead of trying to override it. And the fastest way to update your programming isn't through affirmations or visualizations or trying to convince yourself of something new. It's through embodying the frequency of what you want to experience until it becomes more familiar to your nervous system than what you're currently experiencing. Embodiment is different from visualization or positive thinking because it's not something you do with your mind. It's something you allow your entire being to experience. When you truly embody abundance, for example, You're not thinking abundant thoughts or imagining abundant scenarios. You're actually feeling in your body what it's like to be someone for whom abundance is natural and expected. This might sound abstract, but it's actually quite practical. Think about how you feel when you're around someone who's naturally confident. They're not trying to be confident or working at being confident. Confidence is simply their natural state of being, and you can feel it in their presence. They embody confidence, and their reality reflects that embodiment through the opportunities, relationships, and experiences that show up in their life. You can learn to embody any frequency you want to experience more of. The key is understanding that embodiment isn't about pretending or faking it until you make it. It's about finding genuine ways to feel, in your body, what it would be like if the thing you want were already natural and normal for you. Let me give you a practical example of how this works. If you want to experience more abundance in your life instead of trying to manifest specific amounts of money or particular opportunities, you would focus on embodying the feeling of being someone for whom abundance flows naturally. What does that feel like in your body? How does someone who naturally attracts abundance move through their day? What energy do they bring to their interactions? How do they make decisions? What do they assume about what's possible? When you start embodying these qualities, not as a technique but as a genuine exploration of who you could be, your nervous system begins to recalibrate to this new frequency. And as your frequency shifts, your reality begins to shift to match it. This isn't magic or wishful thinking. It's the natural result of broadcasting a different signal into the quantum field. The reason this works so much faster than traditional manifestation techniques is that you're not trying to create something outside of yourself. You're allowing yourself to become someone for whom the thing you want is already natural. And when something is natural for you, it shows up effortlessly because there's no internal resistance or conflict preventing it. Most people make manifestation hard because they're trying to get something they don't believe they can have, from a state of being that's incompatible with having it. They want love while believing they're unlovable, abundance while feeling unworthy, success while assuming they'll probably fail. The quantum field can't give you what you want from a frequency of not having it. It can only give you more of what you're already being. This is why some people seem to effortlessly attract everything they want, while others struggle for years without seeing significant changes. It's not because some people are more deserving or more spiritual or have better techniques. It's because some people have naturally learned to embody the frequencies of what they want to experience, while others are unconsciously embodying the frequencies of what they're trying to escape from. But here's what's truly exciting about quantum reality escape. The moment you understand that your reality is a reflection of your frequency, and that your frequency is something you can consciously adjust, you realize that you have far more power than you've been taught to believe. You're not a victim of circumstances or genetics or past experiences. You're a quantum creator who's been creating unconsciously, and now you have the opportunity to create consciously. This doesn't mean you can control every detail of what happens in your life. The quantum field is infinitely intelligent and often delivers what you're asking for in ways that are far better than what your limited conscious mind could have planned. But it does mean that you can consciously choose what frequency to broadcast, and you can trust that reality will reorganize itself around that frequency in ways that serve your highest good. The shift from unconscious creation to conscious creation often happens gradually, and then suddenly. You might spend weeks or months practicing embodiment, feeling like nothing is changing, and then wake up one day to discover that your entire life has transformed in ways you couldn't have imagined. This is because quantum shifts often happen below the threshold of conscious awareness, before they become visible in your external reality. Your subconscious mind needs time to integrate new patterns and release old ones. Your nervous system needs time to recalibrate to new frequencies. The quantum field needs time to rearrange circumstances and opportunities to match your new energetic signature. But once these internal shifts reach a certain threshold, the external changes often happen remarkably quickly. This is why people talk about overnight success or sudden breakthroughs. From the outside, it looks like everything changed at once. But from the inside, there was usually a period of consistent embodiment practice, of consciously choosing new frequencies, of allowing old patterns to dissolve and new ones to emerge. The external transformation is just the final step in a process that's been happening internally for some time. Understanding this process can help you stay consistent with your embodiment practice, even when you don't see immediate external results. Trust that every moment you spend genuinely embodying the frequency of what you want to experience is literally rewiring your nervous system and updating your subconscious programming. You're not just hoping for change, you're actively creating the internal conditions that make external change inevitable. So how do you actually practice embodiment in a way that creates real transformation? The first step is getting clear on what frequency you want to embody, not what you want to have or achieve, but who you want to be. What qualities, what energy, what state of being would naturally attract the experiences you want? If you want more love in your life, what would it feel like to be someone who naturally gives and receives love easily? If you want more success, what would it feel like to be someone for whom success is expected and natural? If you want more joy, what would it feel like to be someone who finds reasons to be happy regardless of circumstances? The key is to focus on the being, not the having. Because when you become someone for whom love is natural, love shows up. When you become someone for whom success is expected, success shows up. When you become someone who naturally finds joy, joyful experiences show up. The having is always a reflection of the being. Once you're clear on what frequency you want to embody, the practice becomes about finding genuine ways to feel that way in your current life. This isn't about pretending or forcing yourself to feel something you don't feel. It's about discovering where that frequency already exists in your experience and learning to amplify it. For example, if you want to embody abundance, look for where you already experience abundance in your life. Maybe it's in your friendships, your creativity, your health, or your access to information and learning. Feel into what abundance actually feels like in those areas. Notice how it feels in your body to have more than enough of something good. Then practice carrying that same feeling into other areas of your life. This is much more effective than trying to convince yourself you're abundant when you're looking at an empty bank account. Instead of fighting against what is, you're building on what's already working and allowing that energy to naturally expand into other areas. The same principle applies to any frequency you want to embody. Find where it already exists in your life, feel into what it's actually like to experience that quality, and then practice carrying that energy into situations where you'd like to experience more of it. As you do this consistently, you'll notice that your default state of being begins to shift. Things that used to trigger stress or anxiety might start feeling neutral or even exciting. Opportunities that you never would have noticed before start appearing everywhere. People respond to you differently because you're broadcasting a different frequency, and they're unconsciously picking up on that change. This is quantum reality escape in action. You're not trying to change your external circumstances directly. You're changing your internal frequency, and your external circumstances are naturally shifting to match. It feels effortless because you're working with the natural laws of reality instead of against them. But let me address something that might be coming up for you as you consider this possibility. You might be thinking, this sounds too good to be true, or, if this really worked, wouldn't everyone be doing it? These thoughts are completely understandable, and they're actually valuable information about what frequency you're currently tuned to. The frequency of skepticism and doubt is just as valid as any other frequency, and it creates its own kind of reality. If you're genuinely skeptical about whether conscious reality creation is possible, you'll naturally attract experiences that confirm your skepticism. This isn't because you're wrong or because the principles don't work. It's because the quantum field is perfectly neutral and always gives you more of whatever you're broadcasting. The question isn't whether these principles are true in some objective sense. The question is whether they're useful for creating the kind of life you want to live. And that's something only you can determine through your own direct experience. What I've found is that most people who are drawn to information about conscious reality creation are already natural manifestors who've been doing it unconsciously their whole lives. They've probably had experiences of thinking about someone right before that person calls, or needing something and having it show up in unexpected ways, or getting strong intuitive hits about opportunities that turned out to be perfect for them. If that describes you, then you already know that reality is more responsive and interactive than most people believe. The only question is whether you want to keep creating unconsciously, getting random results based on whatever frequency you happen to be broadcasting, or whether you want to learn to create consciously, deliberately choosing what frequency to embody, based on what kind of life you want to experience. Where in your life have you already experienced what felt like effortless manifestation? Where have you noticed that your energy and attitude seem to directly influence what showed up for you? Those experiences are evidence that you're already a quantum creator. Now you're just learning to do it on purpose instead of by accident. The most powerful realization you can have about quantum reality escape is that you're not learning to do something new. You're learning to stop doing the things that interfere with what's already happening naturally. Right now, As you exist in this moment, you are perfectly connected to the quantum field. You are constantly collapsing infinite possibilities into your lived experience. The question isn't whether you have this power, because you're using it every single second. The question is whether you're using it consciously or unconsciously. Think about your breathing for a moment. You don't have to learn how to breathe. You don't have to try to breathe. Breathing happens automatically, but you can also choose to breathe consciously when you want to influence your state. Reality creation works exactly the same way. It's happening automatically based on your unconscious patterns, but you can choose to participate consciously when you want to influence what you're creating. Most people spend their entire lives unconsciously creating the same patterns over and over again because they never realize they have a choice in the matter. They think reality is something that happens to them, not something they're actively participating in creating. But once you understand that you're always broadcasting a frequency, and that frequency is always being reflected back to you as your lived experience, everything changes. Here's what most people don't understand about frequency. It's not just about your thoughts or your emotions. Your frequency is determined by your entire energetic signature, which includes your beliefs, your assumptions, your nervous system patterns, your cellular memory, and even your ancestral programming. You're broadcasting information that you're not even consciously aware of, and that information is creating your reality with mathematical precision. This is why someone can do years of personal development work, clear their limiting beliefs, practice gratitude daily, and still feel stuck in the same patterns. They're working on the conscious level, while the unconscious level continues to broadcast the same old frequency. It's like trying to change the music by adjusting the volume, while leaving the radio tuned to the same station. Real transformation happens when you learn to tune the dial at the unconscious level, and that requires a different approach than most people have been taught. Instead of trying to fix or change or improve yourself, you learn to simply become aware of what frequency you're actually broadcasting, and make gentle adjustments from a place of curiosity, rather than judgment. Your body is constantly giving you feedback about what frequency you're tuned to. When you feel tense, contracted, or anxious, you're broadcasting frequencies that create more experiences of tension, contraction, and anxiety. When you feel relaxed, expansive, and at peace, you're broadcasting frequencies that create more experiences of ease, flow, and harmony. This doesn't mean you should try to force yourself to feel good all the time. That's just another form of resistance that creates internal conflict. Instead, you can use your feelings as a guidance system to understand what you're creating and make conscious choices about whether you want to stay tuned to that frequency or gently shift to something that feels better. The art of quantum reality escape is learning to make these adjustments naturally and effortlessly, without making yourself wrong for whatever frequency you're currently experiencing. When you notice you're feeling frustrated, instead of trying to stop feeling frustrated, you can simply acknowledge that frustration is the frequency you're currently broadcasting and ask yourself if there's a frequency that might feel slightly better available to you right now. Maybe you can't jump from frustration to joy, but you might be able to shift from frustration to curiosity. Maybe you can't go from fear to excitement, but you might be able to move from fear to cautious optimism. These small shifts in frequency create real changes in what you're broadcasting to the quantum field, and over time, these small changes compound into major transformations. The key is to make these shifts from a place of genuine feeling rather than mental effort. You can't think your way into a new frequency. You have to feel your way into it, and the fastest way to feel your way into a new frequency is to find something in your current experience that naturally evokes that feeling. If you want to shift into gratitude, don't try to convince yourself to be grateful for things you're not actually grateful for. Instead, find something small and genuine that you can appreciate right now. Maybe it's the fact that you're learning something new, or that you have access to information that can help you grow, or simply that you're alive and aware in this moment. When you find something you can genuinely appreciate, notice how that feels in your body. Notice how your breathing changes, how your muscles relax, how your energy shifts. That's what it feels like to broadcast the frequency of gratitude, and the more familiar you become with that feeling, the easier it becomes to access it when you want to. This is how you train yourself to become a conscious frequency broadcaster. You practice noticing what different frequencies feel like in your body, and you practice gently shifting between them based on what you want to create. Over time, this becomes as natural as adjusting your physical posture when you notice you're slouching. But here's something crucial that most people miss. The goal isn't to maintain high-vibe frequencies all the time. That's not realistic, and it's not even desirable. Every frequency serves a purpose, and sometimes lower frequencies carry important information or help you navigate challenging situations. The goal is to become conscious of what frequency you're broadcasting and to have choice in the matter. When you're consciously choosing your frequency based on what you want to create, even challenging emotions become tools for transformation rather than problems to solve. For example, anger can be a very powerful frequency for creating change when it's channeled consciously. Instead of trying to suppress anger or judge yourself for feeling it, you can use the energy of anger to fuel decisive action or clear boundary setting. The key is being conscious about how you're directing that energy, rather than letting it broadcast unconsciously in ways that create more of what you're angry about. This level of consciousness about your frequency is what allows some people to navigate challenges with grace, and even use difficult circumstances as catalysts for positive change. They're not trying to avoid negative emotions or maintain perpetual positivity. They're consciously working with whatever frequency is present in a way that serves their highest good. As you develop this skill, you'll start to notice that your relationship with your emotions changes completely. Instead of being at the mercy of your feelings, you become curious about them. Instead of trying to control your emotional state, you learn to dance with it. Instead of judging yourself for feeling certain ways, you start to appreciate the information your emotions are giving you about what you're creating. This emotional mastery is one of the most practical benefits of understanding quantum reality escape. When you realize that your emotions are directly connected to what you're broadcasting into the quantum field, you become much more motivated to develop a conscious relationship with your emotional life. Not because you're trying to be spiritual or evolved, but because you understand that your emotions are literally creating your future experiences. Most people have been taught to ignore their emotions, suppress them, or let them run wild without any conscious direction. But your emotions are actually sophisticated guidance systems that can help you navigate toward the experiences you want and away from the experiences you don't want. When you learn to read this guidance system accurately, life becomes much more flowing and synchronistic. Synchronicity is what happens when you're broadcasting a clear, coherent frequency into the quantum field. Instead of sending mixed signals based on conflicting conscious and unconscious patterns, you're aligned internally, and reality responds by organizing itself in ways that support what you're creating. Opportunities show up at the perfect time. You meet exactly the right people. Resources appear when you need them. Information comes to you through unexpected channels. This isn't coincidence or luck. It's the natural result of coherent frequency broadcasting. When your thoughts, feelings, beliefs, and actions are all aligned around the same frequency, you become like a powerful radio transmitter sending a clear signal into the quantum field, and the field responds with equally clear reflections of that signal. But when you're internally conflicted, wanting one thing consciously while believing something else unconsciously, feeling one way while acting another way, you're sending scrambled signals into the field. The field does its best to respond, but the results are often confusing, inconsistent, or disappointing, because the signal itself is confused and inconsistent. This is why getting clear on what you actually want, not just what you think you should want or what others expect you to want, is so important for conscious reality creation. The quantum field responds to authenticity, not to what's politically correct or socially acceptable. If you're trying to create something that doesn't genuinely excite you because you think it's what you should want, you'll be broadcasting mixed signals that create mixed results. The most powerful frequency you can broadcast is the frequency of being genuinely yourself, pursuing what genuinely matters to you, and expressing your authentic nature in the world. This doesn't mean being selfish or inconsiderate of others. It means being honest about who you are and what you're here to contribute, and trusting that when you're operating from that authenticity, you naturally create value for others as well as yourself. When you're broadcasting the frequency of authentic self-expression, you attract people, opportunities, and experiences that are aligned with who you really are. This creates a sense of flow and ease in your life because you're not trying to fit into boxes that weren't designed for you or pursue goals that don't actually matter to you. This alignment between your authentic nature and your life circumstances is what many people are really seeking when they talk about wanting to manifest their dream life. They want to feel like their external reality reflects their internal truth. They want to wake up excited about their day because they're living in alignment with their values, their passions, and their natural gifts. Quantum reality escape makes this possible because it teaches you to create from the inside out, rather than trying to arrange external circumstances to make you feel a certain way. When you learn to generate the feelings and experiences you want through conscious frequency broadcasting, you become independent of circumstances for your well-being and happiness. This doesn't mean circumstances don't matter, or that you should be content with situations that don't serve you. It means you have the power to influence your circumstances by changing what you're broadcasting, rather than feeling like a victim of whatever happens to show up in your life. How would your life change if you truly believed that you have this level of influence over your reality? How would you move through your day differently if you knew that every moment you're broadcasting a frequency that's creating your future experiences? What would you choose to focus on, feel into, and embody if you understood that these choices are literally shaping what shows up for you? These aren't just philosophical questions. They're practical invitations to start experimenting with conscious frequency broadcasting in your own life, because the only way to know if these principles work for you is to test them through your own direct experience. Start small and pay attention to what happens. Choose one area of your life where you'd like to experience something different. Instead of trying to figure out how to make it happen externally, focus on embodying the frequency of already having what you want in that area. Notice what that feels like in your body. Practice broadcasting that frequency consistently for a week and observe what shifts in your external reality. You might be surprised by how quickly things start to change when you're working with the natural laws of quantum reality instead of against them. Opportunities you never noticed before might suddenly become obvious. People might start responding to you differently. Circumstances that seemed stuck might begin to flow in new directions. But here's what I want you to remember as you begin experimenting with conscious reality creation. This isn't about perfection or getting it right all the time. You're not trying to control every detail of what happens in your life. You're simply learning to participate consciously in the creative process that's already happening automatically. Some days you'll remember to broadcast consciously, and you'll feel aligned and powerful. Other days you'll forget completely and fall back into old patterns of unconscious creation. Both are perfectly normal parts of the process. The key is to be gentle with yourself and remember that every moment offers a new opportunity to choose what frequency you want to broadcast. The people who experience the most dramatic transformations through quantum reality escape aren't the ones who do it perfectly. They're the ones who do it consistently, with curiosity and compassion for themselves as they learn. They understand that becoming a conscious creator is a skill that develops over time, like learning to play an instrument or speak a new language. And just like learning any new skill, there will be moments of breakthrough and moments of feeling like you're not making progress. There will be times when the principles feel absolutely real and obvious, and times when you wonder if you're just making it all up. This is all part of the process of integrating a new understanding of how reality works. What makes the difference is your willingness to keep experimenting, keep observing, and keep choosing consciousness over unconsciousness, even when you don't see immediate results. Because every moment you spend in conscious frequency broadcasting is rewiring your nervous system, updating your subconscious programming, and creating the internal conditions for external transformation. Trust that the quantum field is always responding to you, even when you can't see the evidence yet. Trust that your frequency is always creating something, even when the results aren't immediately visible. Trust that you have far more power to influence your reality than you've been taught to believe, and that this power becomes stronger and more reliable the more consciously you use it. If you're feeling a spark of recognition as you listen to these words, if something inside you is saying, yes, this feels true, then you're already beginning to tune into the frequency of conscious creation. That recognition isn't just an intellectual understanding. It's your entire being responding to information that aligns with your deepest knowing about how reality actually works. Hit that subscribe button if you're ready to explore this deeper, because I'm going to be sharing more advanced techniques for conscious frequency broadcasting, specific practices for embodying different frequencies, and real examples of how people are using these principles to create extraordinary transformations in their lives. And here's what I want you to do right now. Drop one word in the comments that captures how you're feeling after listening to this. Are you feeling curious, excited, skeptical, hopeful? Whatever you're feeling is perfect, and it's valuable information about what frequency you're currently broadcasting. There's no right or wrong response, only awareness of what's true for you in this moment. Remember, you came into this world as a natural creator, perfectly connected to the quantum field, already knowing how to collapse infinite possibilities into lived experience. Everything you need to create the reality you want is already inside you. You're not learning to become something you're not. You're remembering how to be who you've always been, underneath all the programming that taught you to believe in limitation and struggle. The reality you want isn't somewhere out there waiting for you to figure out how to get it. It's right here, right now, existing as a frequency that you can tune into whenever you're ready. The only question is whether you're willing to reach for the dial and discover what's already available to you. Your quantum reality escape begins the moment you decide that struggle is optional, that limitation is a choice, and that you have the power to broadcast whatever frequency feels most aligned with who you really are and what you're here to create. The universe is waiting for your signal. What are you ready to broadcast?